If you've never heard of Princess Sophia, it's because her secret was too devastating, too dark to ever see the light of day. She had a secret child, and the identity of the father could have brought down the entire British monarchy. As the daughter of King George III and Queen Charlotte, Princess Sophia should have had the world at her feet. Instead, she lived in virtual captivity almost her entire life, surrounded by a family plagued by illness, fear, and royal scandals. So ask yourself, were these secrets truly hidden to protect the crown, or for darker, more personal reasons of those involved? Sophia was born on November 3rd, 1777, the fifth daughter and 12th of 15 children born to King George III and Queen Charlotte. The king, famously favouring his daughters over his sons, was particularly delighted to have another princess. Sophia was considered the brightest among her sisters. She was a charming but sometimes sullen girl, carrying a passionate nature and a deep compassion for those less fortunate. Just imagine a young royal girl, after hearing her father read newspapers about starving prisoners, willing to donate all her allowance to buy them bread. But this compassionate princess's life was plunged into an unforeseen royal nightmare. In 1788, when Sophia was only 11 years old, she witnessed her father, King George III, suffer his first mental breakdown, an event that would forever change her family's life. It might have been porphyria, a blood disorder, or bipolar disorder. The powerful king now spoke incessantly for hours, even foaming at the mouth. The sight was so horrifying that Queen Charlotte, the powerful wife, grew terrified of her own husband. She kept her daughters very close, even requiring Sophia and her sisters to sleep in her room every night. This wasn't just to protect them from the king's instability, but also to avoid being alone with him. Meanwhile, outside the Queen's bedroom, Sophia's elder brother, the Prince of Wales, George IV, had begun a fierce power struggle with his mother, vying for the regency. The Queen even accused her son of colluding with doctors to declare the king permanently insane. Even when the king recovered the following year, a dark shadow still hung over the family. Queen Charlotte fell into a deep depression, becoming suspicious and easily angered. Sophia recounted living in fear and having to tiptoe to avoid displeasing her mother. At 14, Sophia made her court debut in 1792. Though severely nearsighted, she refused to wear glasses in public, fearing the press would mock her appearance. A young, intelligent princess, yet insecure and trapped within palace walls. The Queen controlled her daughters extremely tightly, hardly ever allowing them to leave the palace or meet new people. Sophia once exclaimed that her days were deadly dull and I wish I were a kangaroo. Royal decree stipulated that none of the king's daughters could marry without his consent, a permission he absolutely refused to grant. Their lives were like a convent. Despite strict surveillance, Sophia and her sisters still found ways to read newspapers and court rumors, trying not to become blank slates themselves. They yearned to know about the outside world, longed for love, craved to live a real life. In 1797, when Sophia's elder sister Charlotte married Frederick, the hereditary Prince of Württemberg, the young princess caught a glimpse of a different life. Although Frederick was overweight, had an illegitimate child, and a former wife who died under strange circumstances, it was still an escape. Sadly, Charlotte's marriage did not open the door to freedom for Sophia and her sisters. It only made them crave male attention more intensely, longing for love for themselves. Sophia was close to her brother, the future George IV. As one of the few who could stand up to their mother, George IV was frequently begged by Sophia and her sisters to free them from their convent-like lives and help them find husbands. But at that time, George was still powerless. Among the friends of Caroline of Brunswick, George IV's wife was a woman named Frances Garth. Through Frances, Sophia became acquainted with her uncle, Thomas Garth, who was also her father's equerry. And then, in 1798, Princess Sophia fell into a secret affair with Thomas Garth, with Frances acting as an intermediary. Garth was not a good match by royal standards. He was 33 years older than Sophia and was described as a disgusting old devil, with a large port wine birthmark on his face, so much so that one of Sophia's sisters called him the purple light of love. But Sophia, who was desperate for love and naive to the outside world, overlooked all of that. A maid commented, She loved him so ardently that it was plain for all to see. But not everyone knew, especially her parents. To have a chance to be with her lover, Sophia devised a daring plan. She pretended to have severe abdominal pains, to be moved to Windsor Castle, where her parents lived. Then, as soon as her parents were absent, she secretly brought Garth into her room. Most historians agree that Sophia became pregnant with Garth's child. When this horrifying truth came to light, Queen Charlotte, after a terrible fit of rage, understood that she had only one mission: to keep this secret from King George III at all costs. Her plan seemed absurd, but it succeeded. They told the king that Sophia had severe dropsy to explain any swelling in her body, and sent her to Weymouth to recover. In August 1800, Sophia is believed to have given birth to Thomas "Tommy" Garth. The biological father raised the boy away from royal scrutiny. Some historians suggest that Sophia and Garth might have secretly married, citing a portrait of Sophia wearing a wedding ring. However, Garth's status was not enough for a legal royal marriage, making the relationship fraught with tension. By 1805, their secret relationship began to crack. Garth, perhaps fearing losing Sophia, started to show off young Tommy whenever the royal family was in Weymouth. He even criticized Sophia for being selfish for refusing to see her son, though the royal family would never allow it. Sophia painfully lamented that this affair had ruined her reputation forever. It is sad to think that such a small matter could stain a young girl's reputation forever. This is where Princess Sophia's story becomes even more haunting. While the majority of historians believe Thomas Garth was the child's father, there is another speculation, a secret powerful enough to shake the foundations of the British monarchy. Could the father of that secret child not have been Thomas Garth, but Sophia's own brother Ernest, Duke of Cumberland? It might sound unbelievable, but the following details might make you reconsider. Ernest was known for his crude, aggressive nature and a terrifying lust for women. He even once wanted to attack a convent when he was a soldier. The entire court knew about Ernest's violent behavior, but it was Sophia herself who made the darkest confession. In letters to her lover Thomas Garth, she complained about her brother's attempts. What were those attempts? Perhaps we will never know for sure, but the context and Ernest's personality make this speculation chilling. Imagine if this secret were revealed. A royal incest scandal, an indelible disgrace, would not just be a false rumor, but a truth that could shake the very foundations of the monarchy. It would tarnish the royal family's reputation, undermine public trust, and forever change the history of the English throne. That's why this secret, if true, had to be kept hidden at all costs, to the point of being almost erased from history. Around this time, King George III suffered recurrent bouts of madness. The scene was truly devastating. The king often did not recognize his children, howled like a monkey, and made inappropriate comments. Even more frightening, during his fits of madness, the king engaged in improper advances towards Sophia. Sophia described her father's behavior as too much kindness, which frightens me dreadfully. Notably, she seemed to partially blame her mother's coldness towards him in the bedroom for this behavior. Try to put yourself in Sophia's shoes, a young princess facing not only her own earth-shattering secret, but also the disturbing behavior from her own father amidst his madness. Sophia desperately wanted to escape this madhouse, but she missed her best chance. In 1805, Sophia secretly fell in love with another man, whose identity remains a mystery to this day. The relationship was so serious that the suitor was about to propose, but Sophia made a heartbreaking decision. She could not lie to walk down the aisle, but she also could not reveal the truth about her secret child. Ultimately, she stopped encouraging him and he left. The family tragedy continued. Sophia's youngest sister, Amelia, whom the king adored, died at 27 in 1810 after a long illness. Amelia's death was the final straw that drove King George completely insane. Amelia's nurse described the king sobbing violently every day and plunged into unspeakable melancholy. Sophia could only watch her father slip away. However, even in tragedy, there was a strange glimmer of hope. In 1811, when King George III was no longer able to rule, Sophia's brother, George IV, officially became Prince Regent. One of the first things he did was increase his sister's annual allowances, giving Sophia and her sisters a bit of independence. But like everything in Sophia's life, this was a double-edged sword. Queen Charlotte was furious to see her son undoing decades of her effort to keep her daughters away from the world. George IV kept his promise to help his sisters gain freedom. One of Sophia's elder sisters, Mary, married a duke at age 40 just to escape the palace. Another, Augusta, received permission from the regent to secretly marry her longtime lover. But what about Sophia? She still could not marry, even though she was the youngest of the remaining sisters. Sophia's lonely life became even lonelier as she lost her loved ones. In 1817, her niece Charlotte, George's daughter, died in childbirth. A year later, in 1818, Sophia lost the person who had controlled her life since childhood, her mother, Queen Charlotte. King George III, Sophia's father, was blind, insane, and confined to Windsor Castle for nearly a decade. But finally, in 1820, he too passed away, after spending that Christmas babbling continuously for 58 hours. Sophia gradually accepted her role as an old maiden princess with surprising grace. Her brother, George IV, reigned for a decade and ensured she lived comfortably. When he died, another brother, William, ascended the throne, and the family continued to dote on their little sister. During William's reign, Sophia lived next to her niece, the future Queen Victoria, and Victoria's mother, the Duchess of Kent. The Duchess was influenced by her household controller, a cunning and demanding man named Sir John Conroy. And Sophia quickly fell under his influence as well. Conroy was influential, but Queen Victoria later detested him. Conroy and Victoria's mother imposed an extremely strict upbringing on the young girl, and Conroy himself was known for being mean and fawning. Sophia, it seems, had bad taste in men. However, Sophia might have had a valid reason to cooperate with Conroy. In 1828, Sophia's past came back to haunt her in the worst possible way. Her alleged son, Tommy Garth, reappeared with documents supposedly incriminating evidence about his parents' relationship. Furthermore, Tommy threatened to expose Sophia's youthful misdeeds if the royal family did not pay him a large sum of money. All seemed lost until help came from an unexpected quarter. According to some sources, it was John Conroy himself who quelled Tommy's schemes. Either way, Tommy Garth eventually abandoned his blackmail plans. Conroy made such an impression that Sophia soon allowed him to control her finances. This was a terrible idea. Thanks to Sophia, Conroy lived a lavish life, spending her money mostly on himself. But that wasn't the worst part. By this time, the princess was described as dizzy, easily confused, and almost blind. Clearly, Conroy was blatantly taking advantage of her. And then he made a big demand. Because Conroy knew the powerful Princess Victoria hated him, he used Sophia to spy on Victoria whenever he was away and report back to him. Victoria was utterly displeased to learn of this and kept her distance from Sophia forever after. Princess Sophia's final years turned her into a royal pawn, and her death was equally dramatic. Sophia passed away on the morning of May 27, 1848, at the age of 70. Her death coincidentally overlapped with Queen Victoria's birthday celebration. The newly crowned queen had to host a birthday party while Sophia's end was unfolding. For a woman who had spent her entire life living in the shadow of others, it was ironic that Sophia could steal someone's attention just one last time. Princess Sophia was a tragic figure of history. She was trapped between illness, power control, and rigid royal rules. The secret of her child, especially the possibility that the father was her own brother Ernest instead of Thomas Garth, remains a big question with no definitive answer. It is a mystery still debated to this day, a potential stain that the royal family tried to erase from official historical records. Was Princess Sophia truly a victim of circumstance, or was she also part of this cover-up, choosing silence to protect her family, or simply trapped without an escape? What do you think would have happened if this earth-shattering secret had been made public at the time? Would it truly have shattered the crown? Share your thoughts in the comments below.